The world had ended, and the monsters had won. That was the only thought that could form in the cold, hollow space where my hope used to live. We huddled together in the mud-soaked field, a gray flock of women in worn-out auxiliary uniforms and nursing aprons, the last remnants of a broken war machine. The air, thick with the scent of rain and defeat, carried the rumble of approaching American trucks, and with them, we knew, came the men from the posters, the creatures from the whispers, the savage specters our leaders had warned us about for years. They were coming for us. My name is Liesl. I was a nurse, trained to mend broken bodies, but my own mind had been carefully, systematically broken and reassembled by the Reich. From childhood, we were fed a diet of fear and superiority. We were told the black soldiers in the Allied armies were not men at all. They were unmensch asterisks. Propaganda posters depicted them with monstrous features, eyes glowing with malice, preying on the innocent. Radio broadcasts filled our heads with tales of their unparalleled brutality, their animalistic nature. They were a terror weapon, a force of pure destructive chaos unleashed upon our homeland. As the Allied forces closed in, these stories were amplified, becoming a frantic, desperate scream in the final days of the war. Now, the scream was over, replaced by the grinding gears of our new reality. My friend Hannah trembled beside me, her knuckles white as she clutched a small, useless satchel. We didn't speak. There were no words left for this kind of terror. We simply waited for the end we had been promised. The trucks shuddered to a halt, kicking up clouds of brown dirt. The tailgates slammed down, and they appeared. They were tall, broad-shouldered, their dark skin a stark contrast to their olive-drab uniforms, and the pale, frightened faces of their prisoners. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage of bone. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the snarling, the violence, the fulfillment of prophecy, but it didn't come. When I dared to open them again, the scene that unfolded was so profoundly ordinary it was disorienting. The soldiers weren't roaring. They were talking. Some leaned against the side of a truck, sharing a cigarette, their laughter a low, weary rumble. They moved with the exhaustion of men who had seen too much, fought too long. They were just soldiers. Tired soldiers. The monstrous caricature in my mind began to waver, its sharp edges blurring in the face of this mundane reality. A sergeant, a man with authority in his posture and deep lines of fatigue etched around his eyes, walked towards our group. He stopped a few feet away, his gaze sweeping over us not with hunger or hate, but with a kind of detached professionalism. He spoke, not in a guttural roar, but in a calm, steady voice. His German was heavily accented, but the words were clear. "You will be taken to a detention center," he said, his tone even. "No one will harm you. We will get you food as soon as we can." Food, he promised us food. It was such a simple, human promise, a promise one makes to people, not to animals. I glanced at Hannah, whose eyes were wide with the same stunned confusion I felt. We had been prepared for anything but this quiet, orderly, almost gentle efficiency. The first crack appeared in the thick wall of lies that had imprisoned my mind for a lifetime. Our turn came to board one of the large transport trucks, my bag containing little more than a change of bandages, a worn photo of my family, and a few stale crusts of bread, felt impossibly heavy. It was weighted down with the entirety of my collapsed world. As I struggled to lift it onto the truck bed, it slipped from my grasp. Before it could hit the muddy ground, a hand shot out and caught it. I looked up into the face of a young private, probably no older than I was. He couldn't have been more than 20. His eyes were not filled with malice, but with a quiet concern. He lifted the heavy bag effortlessly and placed it on the truck floor. Then, he did something that shattered my universe. He turned back to me, saw me struggling to climb up, and offered me his hand. Time seemed to slow down. This was the hand of the monster from the posters. The hand I had been taught to fear above all else. I stared at it, a strong, calloused hand. The hand of a soldier, a worker, a man. My indoctrination screamed at me to recoil, to shrink away. It was a reflex born of 1,000 repeated lies. But my body, weary and defeated, betrayed the propaganda. I was just a tired woman who needed help. Hesitantly, my trembling fingers reached out and touched his. His grip was firm and steady. There was no cruelty in it, only support. He pulled me up onto the truck with a single, gentle motion. He didn't say a word, just gave a slight nod and turned to help the next woman. I stumbled to a spot on the wooden bench, my mind reeling. The warmth of his hand still lingered on mine, a phantom sensation that was more real than anything I had ever been told. A single, silent gesture of human decency had just declared war on my entire belief system. The journey was long and bumpy. We sat in silence, a cargo of ghosts, while our captors spoke in their own language at the front of the truck. Their voices rose and fell in normal conversation. There was no menace, no leering, no threats. They were simply men talking about the weather, or home, or the end of the war. With every mile that passed, the lies continued to unravel. The fear that had been my constant companion began to recede, replaced by a profound and unsettling confusion. If they had lied about this, about the very nature of these men, what else had been a lie? The question was a dangerous seed, and in the fertile ground of my disillusionment, it began to sprout. When we finally arrived at the camp, it was not the pit of despair we had envisioned. It was an organized, albeit grim, collection of tents and barracks. We were processed, our names recorded in ledgers by clerks who treated us with a dispassionate but respectful air. And then came the blankets. Thick wool army blankets that smelled of mothballs and security. We were given tins of clean water and rations of bread and canned meat. I sat on a cot, the rough wool of the blanket pulled around my shoulders, and took a bite of the bread. It was plain, but it was the most significant meal of my life. It was sustenance given to me by the very people I had been taught to despise, the people my government had defined as my mortal enemies. They had been painted as beasts, but they were the ones treating us with humanity, while our own leaders had led us to ruin and starvation. In the quiet dark of that first night of captivity, surrounded by the soft breathing of other women who were undergoing the same seismic shift in their souls, the last vestiges of the Nazi ideology crumbled within me. It did not fall to a bomb or a bullet. It was not defeated by a grand speech or a political argument. It was dismantled, piece by piece, by the quiet dignity of a sergeant promising food, by the unexpected kindness in a young soldier's eyes, and by the simple, profound warmth of a hand offered in help. I realized that the most powerful weapon in the world isn't a tank or a rifle. It is a single, unprompted act of human connection. It doesn't conquer nations. It liberates souls. That day I lost a war, but I found my humanity, and I understood that the real monsters were not the men in foreign uniforms, but the men who had taught us to hate them.